Median home price has been very ineffective at communicating what's going on in the market. An economist at a cocktail party is always prepared to engage in the average versus median debate. Typically, economists like medians because if there's a change in the composition of what's selling, it's not going to be ratcheted around like an average is, because a median essentially is a number where half the properties sold for more than that amount and half the properties sold for less than that amount. What happened during this cycle is that the composition of what was selling changed so dramatically that the median gave very false signals. So I've already talked about, or I should have mentioned, that the statewide data started to show weakness in the fourth quarter of 2005. That's when we started to see, let me just go back real quick. That's when we started to see, if you can just look at the magenta, that last quarter, that's where we started to see sales below where they were a year ago, and then 2006 was really coming down. The statewide median home price peaked in May of 2007. So what was happening is those moderate to low-end properties weren't on the market yet. They were kind of in the foreclosure pipeline. So the sales and sales were drying up because the mortgages weren't available anymore. So you had fewer sales here, but the high end was continuing to perform very well, right? The high end wasn't impacted until we reached the credit crunch and you couldn't get a jumbo mortgage. And so the message through the statewide median home price was, wow, well, prices are still going up. Well, they were, but they weren't. You know, it's really about slicing and dicing the data, and that's why you don't hear a lot of talk today about realtors being disintermediated, you know, about the value of a realtor, because it's all about the local data today. It's all about what's going on right here, because what's going on over there or what's being reported in the paper is often irrelevant to your local area, and that's why this is really to the point. The trough in prices occurred over a year ago, February 2009. The peak to trough decline in the statewide median was an unprecedented 59%. The number of million-dollar homes sold in California dropped from 54,773 in 2005 to 18,621 last year. Wow. Here's a look at the drop by region. So peak to trough, we've already covered this with respect to California, a drop of about 59%. In Los Angeles County at 51.2, Orange County 43.4. Just kind of, you know, also if you look at the peak month, you can see that it varies depending on the region. Some regions peaked, Sacramento peaked in August of 05, Northern Wine Country January of 06. Where's San Francisco? San Francisco May of 2007. And then this is a look at the bottom to where we are now. And if you just kind of look at that last column, every region except Northern California, which is Northern California is kind of the, you know, Shasta, Lake County, those kind of resort areas, and those kind of second home resort areas have typically lagged what's going on in the rest of the state by 18 months or so. So they're just starting to kind of experience a little bit of a weakness there. But except for them, every other region is up significantly compared to where they were at the bottom. So we've definitely seen improvement in terms of healing. Inventory is low. They're statewide. We've got a 4.6 month supply of homes on the market. A normal market has between 6 and 7 months. But again, it's the detailed data that really tells the story. If we look at May and break out inventory by price range, you can see at the high end, you've got a 10.1 month supply for the $1 million or more properties. Way down at the bottom, 300,000 and below, you only have a 3.1 month supply. So for sellers and buyers, it's really important that their expectations are rooted in the reality of their market segment, because the aggregate number really doesn't show what's going on. And what that means is you've got multiple offers for distressed properties and prices are going up, At the higher end, there's a lot more competition, so you're seeing more price softening at the high end. Just, you know, it's just a demand and supply. Here's just a kind of a look at what's driving that kind of de-stressed market. The delinquency rate is currently running at about an 11.3%. The foreclosure rate, this is data by the end of '09, about a 5.6% rate. You can see just the kind of a U-turn that both of those measures made in 2005 and 2006 as we got into trouble. Here's a look at the California foreclosure filings. It's a 6-month average. The blue line is the NODs, the sales, and the green is the notice of defaults. And I just wanted to show, again, we're looking for green shoots here, that both those in California, again looking at the 6-month average, have started to head down just a little bit. Okay, a lot of talk about the shadow inventory, and it's been interesting for the last 3 years. Every year I've gotten questions from people about a given date at which all of these properties are going to flood the market. September 15th, August 15th, October 1st, there must be something going on. And there is. There is a shadow inventory, kind of. It depends on how you define it. What is happening today is lenders are not taking properties back. You hear stories of families that haven't paid on a mortgage in 6, 12, 18, 24 months. Theoretically, in another environment, right, the lender would be taking that property back, getting it back into shape, and getting it back on the market. Looking at the kind of financial system as a whole, that nut of underwater properties is a huge loss to be recognizing at a time when you're trying to repair, grow, raise funds on the capital markets, looking at your stock price. So there's kind of a strategy going on where they're just doing it gradually, and that's why I think we're going to be in some areas, not here, but in some areas in California, kind of a foreclosure-centric market for the next 3 to 4 years, because there just isn't any magic bullet. And one of the things you see here is just the big increase in cancellations. You know, the auction has been scheduled, and yet the properties aren't coming out the other end and being offered for sale. They're being canceled because the lender doesn't want to take them back right now. So is there a huge overhang of households who are underwater and still in their homes? Absolutely. Do you want to call that a shadow inventory? You can, but again, it's not officially an inventory yet because the lenders haven't taken it back. Intervention has been somewhat successful, I would say. There's, you know, just kind of an alphabet soup of government programs out of there. I don't think any of them have been incredibly successful, because in order to get these households back on track, there's typically a huge write-down that has to happen. But cancellations are on the rise, and there's just no incentive for lenders to move any faster than they're already moving. Okay, another component of this market, 47%, almost half of the market is first-time buyers. They've had great rates. They've got FHA. They've got a couple of the federal tax credit. Then it was extended. Now you've got the state tax credit, which I think is almost run out of money if it hasn't already. But that was also available. So a lot of incentive to get in. Even without the government programs, I think the government programs probably accelerated decision making to get in time, you know, before the expiration date at the end of April. But look at the ratio of median household income to home prices. In 2006, it was a 10 to 1 ratio. Now it's 4.5 to 1. In other words, affordability is just absolutely amazing for first-time buyers, and that explains their participation. In LA County, sales so far for the first 5 months of this year are up a little over 1% compared to the same period of last year. We've had a pretty strong pull